And then as we're coming to the end of all of this, he said, you know, I had 60 odd years with my wife and I miss her every day. And I always think of John because I think, God, John only got 2 years with his wife, you know? And now we're bearing witness to that. And now we're bearing witness to his wife. My point, what I'm trying to say is, just by tugging a tiny bit on the topic of hobbies, look where we have gone. Look what we were able to sort of, get into and experience and savor and, acknowledge, right? And I think the interesting piece about this is neither me nor this man could possibly know where the reminiscence was going to end up. So we've been doing lots of preparation, getting ready for using this reminiscence tool. And another thing that I want us to think about before you begin is I want you to sort of do a little bit of reflection before beginning using the tool, particularly if you're going to do this by yourself. So before you start using it, I want you to think about the following questions. Okay, so why have I decided to do this right now, right? What am I looking for? What do I hope to gain? Why might this be good for me right now? What am I hoping to get? How do I hope to feel after I'm finished engaging with the reminiscence work? And also, am I willing to bear witness to myself with unconditional positive regard? And can I monitor that as I go? Okay? These are important questions to ask yourself before you begin, right? And certainly, if you are facilitating someone else or a group, you can also take a little bit of time at the beginning just to reflect on these at the start. Okay, so you've heard me use this term, bearing witness, right? And let's think about what that means for a minute. What does it mean to be a good witness to somebody's story, or indeed our own, right? The witness role is always a little bit ambiguous, I think. When we're witnessing, we aren't really counseling. We're not a confessor. We aren't assessing or acquitting anybody of something, some mistake they've made. And we're not even really problem solving or fixing anything, right? So it kind of begs the question, what are we doing when we're witnessing, right? Now, when you have witnessed something, usually what you're doing is you're saying, yeah, I saw that, it's valid, and it's true, right? Kind of simple. I saw it, it's valid, it's true, it occurred, right? And when we are witnessing a life story or a memory, an important memory, we're kind of just simply going, yes, I see that, right? I see that with you. That's a part of your story. I see that it's valid. I see that it's true. I see that it's meaningful. And there's something about that memory or that moment being witnessed that highlights the meaning, right? So I think this is really important because it sounds deceptively simple, but actually this is kind of two human beings sitting there having an exchange, and one person kind of saying to the other person, this is an important part of your story and I see it and I'm here with you in it. And that feels really good. Now, how do we know we're getting this right? How do we know we're bearing witness well? One of the things that I would say is you will start to notice what we kind of call almost these windows of opportunity that sort of start to emerge in the process when you're offering witness to someone. What do I mean by this? Well, there's a little bit of research that was done, and they did it on doctors and patients. And what they found was that they noticed that patients, when they went in to sort of report their symptoms to doctors, they would sometimes actually leave a little bit of information in the room, something about an emotional piece or something about their story or something personal, and they might drop it into the exchange with the doctor and see would the doctor ask any further questions or pick it up, invite more wondering, or, offer to discuss that a little bit more. And what they noticed was that if the doctor didn't pick it up, didn't ask a further question, didn't say, oh, tell me more about that, or what do you mean, that the person would pull back and retreat and just stay focused on their symptoms. So actually, what the individual is doing is sort of testing the waters. Do you want to know more about this? This is something I want to talk about. Do you want to ask me more? You know, it's kind of sweet. The sad bit is that in many of the cases, the doctors or the practitioners don't pick it up. They retreat right back into, tell me about your symptoms, let's think about the blood work, let's do this. And so what they were noticing was that there were actually all these missed opportunities in the caregiving that were occurring here. Now, really, this for me is very much connected to bearing witness, because what's going to happen when you're listening to someone is they're going to bring something into the exchange that might seem small. You know, they're going to start talking about something and you might think, oh, that's not really a big deal. But what you're going to notice is that if you stay present with it, actually there's going to be more and more and more layers that start to emerge when you start sitting with someone in that. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of this. Okay, one time I was sitting with a man, an older man. He was probably about, I think he was 82 at the time. And his wife had recently died, maybe 2 years before. And before sitting with him, I presumed that that's what we would be speaking about. You know, the death had been so fresh. I thought he's probably going to want to talk about this and talk about how life is different. And I thought we'd be doing grief work, really. And so as we were sitting there and kind of talking, what I noticed was actually the way he was relating to his grief was really quite well, you know. He missed his wife. He was talking about bits of that and, you know, but actually he didn't seem to want to talk too much about that. And that's kind of what I expected we were going to be speaking about. And so at one point we somehow drifted into the topic of hobbies, you know, and you'll notice that on the Reminiscence tool, there's a section in different areas where you talk about hobbies or things people like to do or what their interests are, you know. And I said to him, you know, well, what kind of hobbies do you have? Or what were you into? Or what are you into now? And he started talking about running, that he had been into long distance running. So we were sort of sitting with that and talking about it. And I said, well, when did you pick up the running? When did that start? He said, oh, that was way back when I was in high school, you know? And we were talking more about this and how much he enjoyed it. And, you know, and I said, did you do any other sports or was there, you know, no, only the running. And it turns out one of the reasons that he got into running was he really liked another sport that he was super into, but his family couldn't afford all the gear. There were a lot of bits and pieces. You needed the right shoes, you needed the right, you know, the right stuff to play it, you know, and it was expensive. And he remembered at the time that his brother used to wear these glasses, right? And these were state-issued glasses. These were the glasses that were given to you if your family didn't have a lot of money, but you had eyesight problems and, you know, you needed glasses in the classroom. And the brother hated them, and he would never wear them. So he remembers the parents trying to pull together the money to get this different pair of glasses so that the child would wear them in school and so he could learn. And there wasn't a huge amount of expendable income, you know, left over as a result at the time when he wanted to play this sport. So as a result of that, he drifted into running and track and field, and this is how he made his way there. Okay, so we're getting a ton of information here just by talking about a hobby, and it gets even deeper. So we speak about this, and he talks about the pleasure of it and being good at it. And he remembers the first year that he joined this kind of team, they went to this county final. And one of the members of the team came in third at a big county competition. Okay, and this was great. And he remembers coming back into the town, and there was a big banner up celebrating the kid and, you know, lots of fanfare. And they mentioned it at the school on Monday, and he thought, wow, this is great. I want to get really good at this. So he spends the whole year getting really good at running, right? Training every day, putting his whole heart and soul into it. And the next year, they go and they take the trip to the county finals. And some of the kids, you know, there's a break on the bus ride up, and some of the kids go into the local restaurant and they eat in there, and some of the kids have packed lunches. And he's one of the kids that has the packed lunches. Not a lot of extra money. You know, this is one of the memories that comes with that. And then he remembers the excitement and the performing and in the competition and all of this. And lo and behold, he comes in first. He wins in his section, right? He is number one, the champion. So they get on the bus and they're coming home, and he can't wait because he's gonna, there's gonna be a banner and all of this when they come into the town. Big deal. And they get into the town, and what does he find but no banner and no mention of it at school on Monday? Okay, so this is a really pivotal and formative moment for him. This is an important moment for him. Now, here's what I want us to think about. We started talking about hobbies, and look where we have ended up. And what is the role of the witness here? What's my job? If I'm the one witnessing, what's my job? Here's what I want us to think about. Life moves very fast with lots going on, right? So much happens that little things like this sometimes don't even get an acknowledgement. My job as the witness is to go, wow, that's really unfair. That was really unfair, right? This is an 83-year-old man who has never had anybody say to him, that's terrible. That was really unfair. There should have been something to acknowledge that. That was disappointing for you. Okay, so just by starting a conversation about hobbies, you'll notice now what we're bearing witness to is things around socioeconomic status, what it felt like to not have as much as other people, what that actually meant in the world for him, because here he is trying his hardest and he's still not getting the same recognition as this other kid whose father was a politician in the community, right? These are all meaningful things that he wants someone to go, I see that, that's valid, that's true, right? Now, the other piece to this, though, is after spending some time on that, we diverted a little bit. And I found myself wondering about, okay, so, that was disappointing and that was a little bit disillusioning, But here's the other piece that's valid and true. You also won, right? So in 1950, whatever, you came in first for, track and field in the county championships. Tell me more about that. And so we steer in there a bit to that because we're witnessing that too, right? So here we might be asking questions like, okay, so did you get a trophy? Was it a medal? What was the award? What do you remember about the award ceremony? What do you remember about traveling home on the bus? What did your coach say? What did your parents say when you got home? We're drawing out all of this as well and bearing witness to that too. So interestingly, one of the things that came up for him here when we zeroed in on this is he said, I remember on the bus coming home, my friend John Smith said to me, I knew you were going to get it this year. I knew it. I just knew it. And then he paused for a minute and he remembered and he said, he was a really good friend to me. And we're bearing witness to that. And then it goes on because he said, after we graduated, John emigrated and met this really nice girl and they had a son. And when he was 26, he died in a tragic accident. And now we're bearing witness to that piece. This is where it goes. And then as we're coming to the end of all of this, he said, I had 60 odd years with my wife and I miss her every day. And I always think of John because I think, God, John only got 2 years with his wife, And now we're bearing witness to that. And now we're bearing witness to his wife. My point, what I'm trying to say is just by tugging a tiny bit on the topic of hobbies, look where we have gone. Look what we were able to sort of, get into and experience and savor and, acknowledge, right? And I think the interesting piece about this is neither me nor this man could possibly know where the reminiscence was going to end up. Isn't it interesting? So just the prompt of hobbies takes us on a whole journey, all these hidden opportunities within us. That's what's there for you, if you're bearing witness properly and able to be present and really enjoy the contact, you know? Now we're going to explore all the kind of the practical skills that you might need to help you, you know, reminisce with someone and bear witness. But you can kind of get the sense of it from this. So we're not really sort of digging for the memories. We're sort of following the individual's journey. You know, we're seeing where they want to go and staying present in that process. And we're not really holding any authority in this, you know, we're just a companion, right? In the reminiscing. And in this reminiscence piece, remember too, one of the things that we look for, if possible, that can really sort of bring some of this stuff to life are artifacts. So for example, with this man, now, I mean, at 82, he probably doesn't have the actual award or the medal or the trophy, you know, but sometimes we can find newspaper clippings, you know, or sometimes we can kind of locate these things or something in a picture or something in a newspaper, something like that. Locating something like that can be wonderful for the reminiscence process. Now, one thing I would say though is sometimes with some people, if they're approaching something, I don't know, a little mistake or regret or something that causes them pain, some people might almost, you might notice that they're asking you to hold some kind of authority in that, right? For example, they might say something like, well, you probably think that's really bad, or I know you're thinking, what kind of mother would do, right? You'll kind of notice that they're kind of almost thinking that you're kind of holding some kind of moral position or something, or, you know, they might say, oh, you probably think I'm crazy, right? And if this happens, actually, this is actually a really good opportunity to show this person that really, no, you're not really here for that. You know, you're just kind of here. You have this kind of unconditional positive regard for them. You know, you're not looking to hold any authority here. Certainly you're not judging, you know, and I think if this happens, we can kind of simply sit back and kind of maybe normalize this. Maybe we'll say things like, no, I'm not thinking that at all. You know, no, actually, I'm just noticing that that must have been a really hard time for you, actually. Or we might say something like, actually, I think you're being a little bit hard on yourself for this one. That's all I'm noticing, you know? So things like this, where we're sort of putting these little painful things kind of into perspective and then continuing on. Then we just keep moving.